So, Bill, one thing that people often wonder about is the difference between the regular tools that people use for analyzing root causes,
Such as
fishbone diagrams, the 5 whys, and so on, and then the current reality tree that we use for root cause analysis. How would you describe the difference? What's the key difference between those tools?
That's a fair question, and the short answer is logical rigor is the difference between the two. The current reality tree employs a set of 8 logical rules known as the categories of legitimate reservation. And these rules are used to examine every cause and effect connection in the current reality tree. And as long as the connection passes those 8 rules, you can count on the fact that the cause will in fact produce the effect. The fishbone diagram and the 5 whys are much more informal, and there is no set of logical, rigorous rules for them to decide what goes into those two tools. So basically, it's the best thing that you can think of that goes into there. And whether it's true or not, nobody really knows for sure, because they haven't been verified. So verification using a set of logical rules is the difference between the current reality tree and by extension the future reality tree and the 5 whys and the fishbone diagram.
So why do people still keep using those tools if they are inadequate and if they do not actually lead us to the correct
That's a good question too, and the only reason I can surmise is that they are just totally unaware of the fact that the current reality tree and the logical thinking process as a whole even exist. Maybe they're just not aware of it. If they are aware of it, they're certainly not aware of the degree of logical rigor that applies to the thinking process tools. And the other has to do with speed. The fishbone diagram particularly and the 5 whys are very quick to complete. And it's easy for a group to do it around the table, but it's all dependent on speculation, basically, because there's no logical rigor to verify a cause and an effect. So that's basically it. It's logical rigor provided by the thinking process makes the difference between a CRT and the typical TQM tools.
Yes, and this logical rigor, basically what we do is we apply it to make sure that our conclusions are correct, and consequently we apply them to make sure also that our decisions are right. So when people do not apply logical rigor, that means basically that they very often, not invariably, but very often come to incorrect conclusions.
That's true, and it's worth pointing out too that even people who are using the logical thinking process can make a complete hash of it if they do not use the categories of legitimate reservation to verify their connections. You can end up with trees that are pie in the sky and have no bearing on what's actually happening because they haven't been logically verified. That means the tool that is available hasn't been used.
Yes, and maybe it's worthwhile to point out also that it is not only the formal logical validity that we're checking, because we're also checking, whether the things we suggest do actually exist in reality. That's a very important point to keep in mind also.